सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Till now, we have seen intellect as the penetrative capacity that is moving from drishta to adrishta. Drishta means that which can be seen. Adrishta means which can be penetrated and understood. So intellect comes into play where penetration capacity is required. That which you can see, you don't need an intellect because you already see it. All the instruments of knowing that we use will be an extension of the organs only. Like for example, telescope is an extension of the eye. Microscope is an extension of the eyes only. The crane is an extension of the hand. The car is the extension of your legs. So all instruments that we use is always in connection to the sense organs. Extension of the sense organs, because the sense organs are limited by capacity and we keep inventing extension of sense organs, and these extensions of sense organs makes life better, easier, better. Now, where does intellect comes in here? We say intellect comes in when you look at life itself at the deepest core. The capacity to look at life at the deepest core is what we are calling as adrishta. Because rest all belongs to the category of drishta. That which can be seen through the telescope is also drishta. That which can be seen through the microscope is also drishta only. Are you able to understand this? Intellect is that which can penetrate beyond all this and understand. This we have understood as intellect. And then we understood intellect is that which grows by gaining knowledge. It is through knowledge, it is by the process of gaining knowledge and understanding, the intellect grows. And what is that knowledge? If it gains, the intellect grows. We say the knowledge of the Shastras, the scriptures, Vedas, Vedanta. Therefore, Vedanta becomes an exclusive subject for the development of the intellect. The scriptures, the Shastras becomes an exclusive subject for the development of the intellect. But why can't we say other subjects also develop the intellect? It's like saying, I can see through the ears also. I can hear through the nose also, isn't it? You can never ever say you can hear through the nose. You can never ever say I can hear through the eyes. Because one instrument, why to be so dependent on that? Why not? Why not be liberal? And why not be liberal? This thought of liberality for shifting pramanam itself is absurd. Are you able to follow? This idea of shifting pramanam for knowledge itself is very, very absurd. Therefore, Vedas make a categorical statement that buddhi comes through the study of me. The Vedas, Vedanta says, your buddhi intellect will develop only when you study me. We say, why are they so fanatic? Why can't they Why can't I develop intellect through other means also? Yes. Through all other means, intelligence will be developed. It's not denied. Through all other means, intelligence will be developed, and that is not denied, but intellect will not be developed. It means we need to know the distinction. What does intellect means now? Adrishta. I'm summarizing what we have been studying as the introduction to this book itself. I'm trying to summarize. First, what is intellect? Then the way is through knowledge and understanding. Knowledge comes through Shravana, Manana, Nidhyasana, all that we are going to see later. We're not going to get into the details of it now. When we go inside the book, we will study all that in detail. Having said this is the intellect, what comes next? Intellect as an instrument. Eye as an instrument, we understand. Ear as an instrument, we understand. What is intellect as an instrument? Intellect as an instrument is an impartial discriminative function. Again, I repeat. Intellect as an instrument is a impartial discriminative function. Because knowledge in itself is pure discrimination, pure information. Knowledge in itself is just information, discrimination. That's all knowledge itself is. There is no role for emotions and feelings there. Where emotions and feeling comes in, knowledge, you have started moving from the impartial discriminative function to another instrument called as the mind. So mind as an instrument is emotions and feelings, impulses, etc. Intellect as an instrument is impartial discriminative function. In other words, this impartial discriminative function, also known as objectivity, is also known as objectivity. And what is objectivity? Objectivity is an impersonal vision, understanding, an impersonal vision, an impersonal understanding of both the subject and the object. That is objectivity. Again, I repeat. What is objectivity? We say pure discriminative function, also known as objectivity. What is objectivity? Objectivity is an impersonal vision, an impersonal understanding of the subject and the object. You look at yourself objectively, you look at the object also objectively. Therefore, intellect as an instrument stands outside and looks at the subject and the object. When it looks into the subject, what does it look? What does it look? Impartial, discriminative, impartially, discrimination. It looks at the subject as what? The manifest and the hidden motives, the hidden attitudes, all that becomes visible. That adrishta part which is invisible becomes visible in relation to the subject and also in relation to the object. So what is objectivity? Now intellect, impartial discriminative function, comma, or objectivity, both are one and the same. And how would you define objectivity? Sakshi Bhava, they say. And what is Sakshi Bhava means? Witnessing. And what is witnessing means? We'll be going in circles defining. Actually, we don't define. We just replace words. Actually, we don't define, because to define is an exclusive subject. Define is an exclusive, to define something is an exclusive subject. That is what Vedanta does. Defines everything very precisely, clearly. Now, what is Sakshi Bhava? An impersonal vision, an impersonal understanding of both the subject and the object. When we say impersonal vision of both the subject and the object, what is it that it sees very clearly? There is a manifest motive and there is a hidden motive. manifest motive is உங்க நல்லதுக்கு தான் சொல்றேன். Hidden motive is I want to spit venom. Objectivity is ability to see both. When you are able to see both, you have a clarity about the subject and also you have a clarity about the object. That is called intellect. Are you able to follow? Invariably, what happens? We don't have this impersonal vision about the object, also the subject. Easy to start with the object. Ultimately, the focus is to come to the subject. You start from the external environment, from distant object and beings, and move closer and closer and closer. At one point of time, leave all the objects behind and come to the subject. And when you come into the subject, you go deeper and deeper and deeper into the subject, culminating in the final question of who am I? Tattvamasi to Aham Brahmasmi. Ivodu irukku intellect. Idella objectivity. The intellect vaanave vaanadu. Who wants this intellect? Because it is an impersonal vision, pure discriminative. Because we said intellect means purely discriminating, distinguishing, isn't it? So what does it do? In everything there is a seen, there is an unseen. In every human being there is a seen and there is an unseen. Invariably we get carried away by what we see, and the unseen is missed. Whenever that unseen becomes manifest, are you able to follow? Whenever the unseen becomes manifest, that is the time we say, Emathitanga sir, I got cheated by this person. I got cheated. இவ்வளவு நாளா நல்ல ஒரு மாதிரி நடிச்சுனே இருந்தாரு. All along he was pretending. I got cheated. This I never expected from you. Are you able to follow from where it comes? From where it comes, you only saw the scene, and whatever you saw, you take it for granted, and the intellect wasn't available to understand there is something. The scene, and always there is an unseen. What intellect does it is, it will not try to look for the specific unseen. It understands there is an unseen. And whenever the manifestation happens, it can accept it, it can digest it, it doesn't get affected. Are you able to follow now? Again I repeat, in unseen, enna nonda kudadu. What is unseen, you can never dig and you'll go mad only if you do that. That is insanity. As it deals with the manifest, whenever some different distinct manifestation happens, intellect is so objective to accept it, digest it. Because it is coming from where is it coming from? The unseen part of the personality. So there is a seen manifestation and there is an unseen which will manifest at some point of time. Distinct and different from that is, we said, the manifest motives and the hidden motives. Hidden motives is what Shakespeare says, one may smile and smile and smile and yet be a villain. The person is very friendly and smiling, but that person is ready with the dagger to stab you. Smile and smile and smile and yet be a villain. Therefore, what is intellect? Now we understand intellect. We understand it as a pure, impartial, discriminative function, objective. All this becomes possible by the intellect to do only when it has the Shastric knowledge. Without the aid of the Shastric knowledge, it will not be able to do any of this. Are you able to understand the connection now? Without the aid of the Shastric knowledge, the intellect will not be able to do all that. Without the aid of the Shastric knowledge. Now, what happens without the aid of the Shastric knowledge? It will get carried away by what it sees. That's why he says, do not take things for granted. Means don't get carried away by what you see. When you say don't get carried away by what you see, what it means is don't take it as the complete, don't take it as the ultimate. Are you able to follow? Again, I repeat, when you say don't get carried away by what you see, it is not saying what you are saying is wrong. It's not saying that. It's only saying don't assume this to be the final. Don't assume what you see to be the complete. Always give a room. Give a room for what? Always give a room. What is the room for? Adrishta. Always you give a room. What is the room that you give for? The room that you give for is Adrishta. Here, the intellect becomes a important instrument for the welfare of the life. Also, we said, what does intellect do? To seek and gain knowledge, to monitor the mind and the senses and the action. That also, all that I'm quickly summarizing what we have studied till now. Again, what intellect does? It seeks and gain knowledge. Also, it has to monitor the mind, the senses, and the action. Seeking and gaining knowledge is to make life better. That's what science does. That's what intelligence does. Again, I repeat. Seek and gain knowledge as in the worldly knowledges to make life better. And what is understood as a better life? Less effort. Less effort is understood as a better life. What will take 3 hours, if it is done in 3 minutes, it is better. Why should you break your head, sit and do all this? Just type what you want and the machine will do. The machine will do everything for you and it will give you a summary also, isn't it? So this Microsoft thing that that it is associated with that artificial in chat or whatever that they talk about, it's there. So funny, huh? Try it out. First I asked, this evening only I did. First I asked, what is Vedanta? It gave answers. Vedanta is this, it gave answers. Then I asked, who is Arvindan? I asked. Who is Arvindan? I asked. So many Arvindans came. Huh? Who is Arvindan? Tattvamasi will never come in that. It never came. I saw. I tested. Anybody can try it out. Not now. Put an other window open. Don't start trying now. Yeah. Don't try it now. So I typed. What is Vedanta? It said. Ganesha, it said. So Munal question. And then the 5th question. Who is Arvindan? It was going on. Just scroll quickly. You can scroll through. No, this birth, this qualification, this height, this weight, this person here, that person there. In the Arvindan, isn't it? Yeah. At least I thought my photo will come somewhere. That also didn't happen. Then I realized, okay, in artificial intelligence, notice we have not done anything meaningful. But one thing never came. What? If we ask, who am I? It will never say, Tattvamasi. All that is not you, it will list out. That's intelligence. அதனால கரெக்டா பேர் வச்சிருக்காங்க. ஆர்டிஃபிஷியல் இன்டெலிஜென்ஸ்னாலே ஆர்டிஃபிஷியல் தான், isn't it? You don't have to say artificial intelligence இல்லையா? What is intellect? Distinct from that. Distinct from that is this ability. What is the ability? To seek and gain knowledge, not only that makes life better, to seek and gain scriptural knowledge. Again, it not only gains worldly knowledge, all knowledge has to be sought after. No knowledge is going to come straight away. All knowledge, even if it is worldly knowledge also, you have to seek it and gain it. Here also the Shastric knowledge also has to be sought after and then gained. The result is different. If you seek only the worldly knowledge and gain the worldly knowledge alone, what is the result? And if you seek and gain the Shastric knowledge, what is the result? If you seek and gain the Shastric knowledge, the result is knowing who you are. If you seek only worldly knowledge, intelligence, and gain that and become master in that, what is the result? Intelligent, illiterate, agitated, depressed being. Only intelligence. What is the result of intelligence? What is the result of seeking worldly knowledge, becoming intelligent? What is the result of seeking Shastric knowledge and developing the intellect? Different results. The first result is you become very intelligent, but still illiterate only, because you still don't know who you are. You'll be very intelligent, but still an illiterate, also very agitated. Agitated means worrying, depression, fear, insecurity, etc. All this will result in depression. So all worldly knowledge, intelligences, the hope is to make life better. The end result is misery, depression. That's why Bhagavad Gita starts with Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Vishadam means depression. You understand? Vishada means depression. Who is depressed? In Bhagavad Gita, who is depressed? Arjuna. The best person in that group. Correct? Huh? Who got depressed there? Not some ordinary person not an ordinary soldier. Arjuna got depressed. And who's Arjuna? He's Dhananjaya, winner of wealth, meaning he knows how he has wealth. He's Savyasachi. Savyasachi means ambidextrous. Ambidextrous means he can use both the hands. He can shoot with right hand and he can shoot arrows with left hand. Equally, yeah? Equally. And he's not a dull person. He asked, in the Gurukula itself, he asked Dronacharya. And they were all small kids. They were all sitting and eating their dinner. And suddenly a strong wind, lights went off. Because in those days, lights are the candle lights, no? The lights went off and still they continued to eat. Arjuna asked this question to Dronacharya. How is it in the night also the hand knows where the mouth is? That Arjuna got into depression. That's why we should know about Arjuna to understand. Are you able to follow? Arjuna asked this question to Dronacharya. How is it that the hand knew where the mouth is in in darkness. Inga pola, inga pola, inga pola, it was going as though it is still seeing. Dronacharya said, Abhyasa, practice. It's practicing, consistency, doing it, it knows, it can never forget. Then he asked, oh, it means if I practice, I can shoot in pitch darkness also? Dronacharya said, yes. Arjuna said, can you shoot? Can you shoot? He demonstrated, he shot. That kind of an Arjuna who is the master class can get into depression. Intellect avoids. Are you able to connect now? What is the role of the intellect? The role of the intellect is to move from the worldly knowledge as a pramanam to shastric knowledge as the pramanam, and using the shastric knowledge for all that it has to do in life. Now, don't ask what is Shastra. We studied that already. Somewhere we studied, no? I don't remember where, but we studied somewhere recently only. This is intellect. This is, and what knowledge? What knowledge? Essentials and non-essentials. Essentials and non-essentials. Means and end, karyam and akaryam, nityam and anityam. What is the knowledge? This is the knowledge. What is the Shastras talks about? Essentials and the non-essentials, means and end. End na goal. Means na the path to the goal. Generally, people say means and ends. Vedanta says there is no multiple goal, there is no variety of goals, there is only one goal. That is very clear. Again, I repeat, Vedanta comes and says, don't talk about very many goals. Goal is one, singular. What is many? The means are many. The means are many. So, essential and the non-essential, means and the end, karyam and akaryam. Karyam and akaryam. Karyam means what ought to be done. Akaryam means what ought not to be done. And then comes nityam and anityam. Eternal and the ephemeral. Eternal and the temporary. To do all these, you need an intellect, and that intellect has fallen today. Up to this we have covered. Correct? And that intellect is having a fall. The rise of intelligence is not rise of intellect. Both are two separate subjects. To distinguish that, we talk about intellect itself as two, that is gross intellect and subtle intellect. That's why we say intellect itself is divided into two, gross intellect and subtle intellect. Gross intellect is that which pertains to the world. Subtle intellect is that which pertains to that which is beyond the world. That which is beyond the world, moon, Mars, another galaxy, which is beyond the visible. What is the invisible that is supporting the visible? Who am I? I am the bulb or I am the electricity. This is subtle intellect. Again, I repeat, who am I? You can say I am this, meaning I am the bulb. The moment you say you are a bulb, what all comes along with it? Other bulbs, isn't it? Other bulbs. The moment other bulbs come in, what comes along with it? Smaller bulb, bigger bulb, competition, isn't it? All that comes. Everything comes. The moment you say electricity, you become universal. The moment you say, I am the electricity, you become universal, unconnected to the differences of the instruments, and without you, no instruments can function. This is the Shastric knowledge that strengthens the intellect. Gross intellect and subtle intellect. Having done all this, we started the whole thing by talking about the paradox. Intellect is needed because of what? Intellect itself is required because of the paradox of life. What is the paradox of life? The importance of education is understood by who understands the importance of education? Logically speaking, the uneducated, correct? But who understands the importance of education? The educated understands the importance of, that is the paradox. The importance of the intellect is understood by one who has an intellect. That's where he said it gets that difficult. Because one who doesn't have an intellect cannot understand the importance of the intellect. So the paradox is what? One who has an intellect understands the importance of intellect, and they keep drumming it in. And they keep drumming it in. One who doesn't understand the importance of intellect doesn't understand the paradox itself. Three paradoxes of life. That's why intellect is needed. Now from Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi and all, we have come to intellect as an instrument that is helping in day-to-day practical life also. How? The paradoxes. First paradox. Importance of intellect is understood by one who has an intellect, just as the importance of education is understood by one who is educated. It is educated that goes around teaching the uneducated. No, get educated, get educated, educated. Correct? Do you understand the paradox at least? First. Second paradox is subtler. We are going to the paradoxes subtler and subtler. The second paradox, which is subtler than the first one, is all that comes natural to you is detrimental. All that is evolutionary comes through effort. Paradox. Again, I repeat. All that comes natural to a human being is detrimental. All that is evolutionary comes through effort. If it is the other way around, life is very easy, isn't it? Correct? Anger and greed and jealousy is natural. Does anybody need any training? Does anybody need training to get angry? Does anybody need training to become jealous? The newborn is angry, isn't it? 30-day-old, 60-day-old, 90-day-old infant gets angry, isn't it? Only the body is so small that it cannot express it, isn't it? Otherwise, through the eyes only, it will burn everything. Have you ever seen it? Have you ever noticed it? Mothers would have noticed it, isn't it? Anger comes naturally. Jealousy comes natural. Greed comes natural. Does gratitude come naturally? How much of effort is required, how much of education is required to make a human being develop gratitude. Imagine life where gratitude is easy, natural, and anger is very difficult. How life would be? The second paradox is all that is natural is detrimental. All that is evolutionary comes through effort, isn't it? Even physically, is lazing around natural or getting up and exercising natural? What is natural? How much of effort and practices you would have done to get into the, says, even at the physical level, I'm saying, isn't it? Even at the level of the food, they call it as junk food, isn't it? They call it as junk food, and that is more delicious, isn't it? That is more delicious than the right. So you look at in any angle, you look at anything in life. The second paradox, you need an intellect to resolve the paradox. The third subtlest one is what you see is not what it is. What you see is not what it is. If what you see is what it is, there is no paradox. If what you see is what it is, there is no paradox. What you see is not what it is. Therefore, don't take things for granted. Question everything. Why? To resolve this paradox. If what you see is what it is, why do you have to question? Because it's already known. No. That which is known need not be learnt again. You know it already. Since what you see is not what it is, you should not take it for granted and question. What is the fall today? The fall, we start at this point, we start the fall. What is the fall? Everything is taken for granted and nothing is questioned. Here we discuss the fall now. After 3 weeks, isn't it? After 3 weeks, we are connecting to the text. What is the fall now? Taking things for granted and not questioning. What is it that you have taken it for granted and not questioning? Fulfilling the demands of the senses and the mind, you have taken it for granted and you have not questioned it at all. That is the fall. Again, I repeat. What is the fall? What is the fall? You have taken it for granted. What have you taken it for granted? What did you take it for granted? Fulfilling the demands of the senses and the mind is taken for granted, and all efforts is done to achieve that. All efforts are done to achieve that. What is intellect now? Intellect says, do not take it for granted. What you don't take it for granted now? What you don't take it for granted now? Fulfilling the demands of the senses and the mind indiscriminately unguided. Indiscriminately unguided, a human being caters to the demands of the senses and the mind. That's where Srimad Bhagavatam talks about it, and exactly that 5 examples Shankaracharya takes up in his introductory textbook, Viveka Chudamani. It's there in Srimad Bhagavatam. Shankaracharya takes it in the Viveka Chudamani, verses 73, 74 in Viveka Chudamani, where he talks about an animal having a weakness for one sense and getting destroyed. There he gives an example. The animal having weakness for one sense organ and getting destroyed. Then he concludes by saying, human being has weakness for all the five senses. What is the chance? What is the chance? All finished. No. There is the intellect as the potential in you, and there is the Shastra that is available. So complete, so perfect it is. So the perfect Shastra is available, the knowledge is available, and you also have an intellect to exercise, strengthen, learn it, so that you don't become a victim. What is the fall now? The fall now is we are a victim is the fall. We are a victim is the fall. Victim of what? Victim of the senses and the mind. In fact, we have to go one step lower than that and say, not the victim of the senses and the mind, victim of the external world. Without a gross. You become a victim of the external world. It means you have no knowledge of what the external world is. You have no knowledge of what senses is. You have no knowledge of what mind is. You have no knowledge of what life is. All about lacking this knowledge, resulting in the fall. Yeah. Are you okay till now? Chapter 1. The fall. Huh? Yes. Before we go into the fall, we will. Yeah. Hari, yes. Cholunga.
Harium.
Yeah, yes, Cholunga.
Can you once again explain about the seen and unseen aspect? Is it, did you mean, when you say seen and unseen, did you mean drishta and adrishta?
Yes. What I meant by seen, what Hari is referring to is, in the beginning, when I was referring about the intellect, we spoke about the seen and the seen motives and the hidden motives, the seen and the unseen, all that we spoke.
Can you give one example?
Yeah, I'm giving an example for that.
Okay.
First, we'll give the Shastric example, and then we'll give example from modern observation.
Okay.
First example, the Shastric example. The moving wheel is supported by the unmoving axle. The movement of the wheel is seen, the axle is not seen. The unmoving axle is supporting the moving wheel. It is the unseen that supports the seen. Adan theorem. Hari. The unseen supports the seen.
Yeah.
The unmoving axle is supporting the movement of the wheel. When the wheel starts, the axle is there. When the movement is over and reaches the destination and looks at it, what is there? The axle is still there. The axle never moved, but it moved. It moves not. Upanishad. It moves not. Beautiful it is. Okay. If this is a bit difficult, we'll come down to another example. What is another example? When you look at the tree has two aspects, the seen and the hidden, the unseen. What is seen in a tree? The trunk, the branches, leaf, the flowers, the fruits, everything is seen.
Yeah.
What is unseen?
The root.
The roots. Intellect can penetrate, and when it looks at the tree, the trunk, the leaves, the flowers and fruits, the intellect understands there is a strong root that is supporting this tree. So there is the unmanifest unseen root, which remains as it were in darkness hidden, supports the manifest. Another example. The building is seen, the foundation on which the building is resting is not seen. From this, what do we understand? Wherever there is an order, wherever there is a stability, there is something that is, there is unseen factor supporting it. Are you able to understand how we arrive at it? Wherever we see a stability, wherever we see an order, wherever we see things are shaped up rightly, we understand that is what we see in manifest. There is something that is supporting it. There is something that is holding it together. Last example. Various manifestations of electricity is seen, but electricity in itself is unseen. Again, the various manifestations of electricity is seen, but electricity in itself is unseen, isn't it? The bulb is seen, the fan is seen, the light is seen, the air conditioner is, everything is seen, but what is not seen?
Electricity.
Electricity is not seen, but it is that invisible that supports the visible. What is intellect now? When you look at the seed, you understand the tree. What is intellect? When you look at the seed, you understand the tree. When you look at your today, you can understand your tomorrow. When you look at your present, you can understand your future. Horoscope person, isn't it? You look at your today, you will know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. Why? Because your tomorrow is going to come out of today. Your tomorrow is not coming out of some calendar. Yeah. Subhagrit Varshamudi Bordu. Another new year is going to come in another couple of weeks. New year is coming out of that. Huh? Your tomorrow is coming out of today. The capacity to see the invisible in the visible. Either seen and the unseen. To make it simple, we use the word drishta and adrishta. And two beautiful words to remember to understand intellect. Drishta and adrishta. And every time I keep using this word drishta and adrishta, I keep defining it, translating it in English also, because the local meaning of the word adrishta is a very limited, in fact, it's a wrong meaning they give. Adrishta means, what is the colloquial meaning of the word adrishta? Luck. Correct. Or adrishta nariya irukudhu sir na, or luck nariya irukudhu. Adrishta doesn't mean luck. Adrishta doesn't mean what is adrishta?
Lot of unseen.
Your today is born out of your yesterday. Your today is born out of your yesterday. Your tomorrow is going to come out of your today. This perfect understanding is what we call as going into the developing this penetrating capacity, and this penetrating capacity, if it is functioning, then we say intellect is functioning. Are you okay, Hari?
Yeah. Can we in any way will, whether it can be connected with the Urdhamoola Madashakam, that the root is?
No, we don't connect it to that here.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, we don't connect it here.
Okay.
What he's referring to is chapter 15, verses 1 and 2.
Yeah.
The reference that Hari is giving is chapter 15, verses 1 and 2. Urdhamoola Madashakam Ashwattham Prahuravyayam.
Yeah.
All. And then he says upside down tree. Next verse. Asanga Shastrena Dridena Chitva. cut that tree with that sword of, the tree is deep rooted. But the deep root, that is not what we are discussing here. We will be discussing that when we go into, we are going to discuss that into the book. When we go into the book, we'll be discussing that also in one of the chapters.
Okay.
Where we talk about effect on religion. So many things we are going to talk about. When we go there, we'll discuss that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Now, chapter 1, the fall. What it means is, the fall is understood as a faculty, a facility you have, which you, and that which you didn't make use of it is the fall. It is not that a powerful intellect has fallen. What is the fall? What is the fall here? Lack of knowledge is the fall. Are you able to follow? What is the fall here? There is this thing called intellect is not known, and this intellect is the vital factor of life is not known, and this vital factor intellect can be strengthened by the study of Vedanta. Is not known. Therefore, this is known as this is what we call it as the fall. We'll read the first chapter 1, the first topic, the fall. The world is a beautiful phenomena of cause and effect. Yes.
Fall. The word is
Are you all able to hear what she's reading? Nobody can hear. I'll read. The fall. The world, close it. The world is a beautiful phenomena. The world. What is happening? Suddenly something is coming up.
Should I read, sir?
Yeah, please. Oh, yeah, you are here. Yes.
Yeah. The fall. The world is a beautiful phenomena of cause and effect. There is a reality that pervades and percolates every facet of the world, making it graceful, glorious. Objects and beings have been orchestrated to bring about the melody of life, a heaven upon earth. However, that is not to be. Desire and attachment, lust and greed has devastated the human race. The root cause for this pathetic state is the fall of the human intellect, the loss of reason and judgment, which has led people the world over to live by a herd instinct. Hardly anyone can claim to possess an intellect to think originally, freely, independently. Consequently, a heaven has become a veritable hell. A world of peace and bliss has now been transformed into a world of strife and struggle. The joy and happiness within human beings has turned into sorrow and misery, an alarming state brought about by the neglect of a human intellect, followed by their mind's self-centeredness, selfishness. Humanity has gone off the rails, and humanity alone can put itself back on the rails. You are the architect of your fortune. You are the architect of your misfortune. You make yourself, you mar yourself. The responsibility of redeeming the world, therefore, falls entirely on human beings. To set it right, you need to first study the human constitution and fulfill your role as a human being.
Now the first topic is talking about, that's how we started the fall. What is the fall now? The fall is not understanding there is a cause and effect. Second, there is a melody, meaning everything works so interconnected. Everything works so interconnected, so beautifully orchestrated to bring the melody. But a human being is not experiencing any of this. A human being is not experiencing any of this. Then what is a human being experiencing? Strife, struggle, wars, destruction, worry, anxiety, where it is orchestrated to be a heaven upon earth. What we are seeing is a totally different thing. Dharma kshetre, kurukshetre, which was designed to be a dharma kshetra, has turned into a kurukshetra. That's what he's saying. In Bhagavad Gita, he starts dharma kshetre, kurukshetre. The dharma kshetra has turned into a kurukshetra. Kshetra means the field, the loka, the world. Dharma means the righteousness. Kurukshetra means battlefield. A melody of life is where there is no war. Where there is Kurukshetra, where there is war, there cannot be any melody after that. Again, where there is melody, there is no war. Where there is war, there cannot be any melody. The war is human created. The human being alone can get rid of it. The war is created by the human being. And how does the humanity created the war? Desire and attachment, lust and greed. The human beings have created the war by developing these three, by having these. What is it? Desire and attachment, lust and greed. Where there is desire and attachment, lust and greed, peace and bliss, joy and happiness is impossible. Again, desire and attachment, lust and greed will not go with joy and happiness, peace and bliss. But the goal is what? This peace and bliss is the goal. And what does a human being do to get there? They move in the opposite direction, thinking that they are going to get to the goal. What is the goal? By fulfilling the desires and getting further and further and further attached to objects and beings, they think, the human being assumes, peace and bliss, joy and happiness can be attained. Achieved is the fall. What is the fall now? The joy and happiness, peace and bliss will come through desire and attachment. Desire and attachment. The moment we talk about desire, the moment we talk about attachment, rest of it follows. What is the rest? Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya, Bhaya, Dvesha, all follows the moment you talk about desire. Because when we say desire, we will see when we enter the text, we will see that. One is the disease, another is the symptoms, the manifestations. So, how do we analyze? Wherever there is the symptoms, we say there is the disease hidden. Because if the disease is there, symptoms will manifest. What are the symptoms? Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya, Bhaya, Dvesha. All these symptoms will manifest. So desire and attachment, the root cause for this pathetic state is the desire and attachment. And in order to overcome the desire and attachment, you need an intellect. And that intellect can be strong only with the Shastric knowledge. That's the connection. What is the fall? The fall is desire and attachment, lust and greed, etc. are seen as the way to joy and happiness, peace and bliss. The Shastras comes and says, wherever there are these, what will be the consequence? What will be the result? Kurukshetra. The Dharma Kshetra will turn into a Kurukshetra. Or we are working backwards. Where are we now? It is not that the Dharma Kshetra is turning into Kurukshetra. It is already a Kurukshetra. Arjuna, the Jiva is in the Kurukshetra, unsupported, sitting in depression. The moment Krishna comes, the fallen Arjuna gets resurrected. Yatra partho dhanurdaraha tatra sri vijayo bhutihi dhruvanitir mater mama. Kadasi verse, Bhagavad Gita. Yatra yogeshwara krishnaha tatra partho dhanurdaraha tatra sri vijayo bhutihi dhruvanitir mater mama. Wherever this Yogeshwara Krishna is guiding, Krishna means symbolic of the Shastras. Wherever there is Krishna guiding, what is the result? Tatra, there. Sri, Vijaya, Bhuti, all that is meaningful in life comes. Prosperity, peace, etc. comes. It means what? The Kurukshetra has once again turned into a Dharma Kshetra. So what is the fall? The fall is, Kurukshetra is the fall. What is the resurrection? Dharma Kshetra. This is chapter 1, the fall. In order to do all these, we need to know the anatomy of a human being, which we will take it up in the next class. The anatomy of a human being, we can just read through and move on to the next. So in order to resurrect, where do you start with? You start with the human. You start with the human composition. Therefore, next week, we'll start with the study of the anatomy of the human beings, the Vedantic anatomy. Whenever we say anatomy means, we understand it as the Vedantic anatomy. With this, we conclude for today. Venkachalam, solunga. One second. Wait, they will unmute you. They are not unmuting you. Ippada you are unmuted. Solunga.
Drishta and Adrishta, can I take it that Drishta is a manifest part and Adrishta is the unmanifest?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
that right way?
Yes. Yes.
But
Yes,
even
you can take it like that.
Yeah.
Yes, you can take it like that.
Even though what we see as manifest is
Yes.
ultimately, essentially, the Brahman
Yes.
appearance. Again, so we see it as an appearance, but that is the truth. That's
Yes.
also the adrishta part.
Correct.
So it's only the manifestation and appearance.
Yes. See, right from the beginning, Vedanta teaches us not to conclude anything with the drishta. That's why I say there is always the unseen. There is always something that is hidden. There is always something that is hidden, so that the probe is kept alive. At any point when we say, now I know it, they will come and say, what is known becomes the manifest. There is the unmanifest still. Again, at any point of time you claim that I know, Vedanta comes and says, correct. But what you have known is only the manifest, and there is unmanifest still yet to be known. There's unmanifest that yet to be explored. And what is that? You negate and negate and negate and negate. You come to a point where you get something that cannot be negated any further. Again, you go on negating, you go on negating, you go on negating. You will hit a point where something at the core will remain, which cannot be negated any further. A human being should be trained to get to that point from the beginning. Therefore, the first lesson in Vedanta is what? Don't take things for granted. Whatever you see as manifest, howsoever good it is, howsoever appealing it is, howsoever useful it is, don't conclude with that. Don't stay with that. Invariably, we stay put with most of them, because wherever we find a utility, we just stay put with it. We don't go any further. Here he says, no, go
Deeper.
Go deeper. Go deeper. Is okay, Venkatachalam?
Okay. One comment.
Yes.
So the adrishta part is
Yeah.
always beyond this time, space, and causation.
Yes.
Within this time, space, and causation, we can never have an understanding. We can only infer based on shastras. So that is only an inference.
No, it is not an inference based on Shastra. It is Shraddha based on the Shastra state.
Oh, Shraddha based on.
Yeah, it's a Pramanam. That's why we have discussed it. It's a separate Pramanam. It is not inference, because inference is dependent upon, see, the very word Anumana means that which is known already. That which is known already, that which is seen already, you connect it. Without a prior knowledge, inference is not possible.
Okay.
When it comes to Brahman, God, there is no prior knowledge with which you can infer and say this.
So only the
Shabda Praman. Yes, it's a separate Pramanam. It's a Shabda, Veda, Shastra Praman.
But it's still outside the.
Yes. Yes, it is outside the purview of the intellect, but we start with seeing the hidden in the manifest itself, so that we are trained not to get carried away by the manifest. So at one point of time, we can transcend time-space causation itself.
Okay.
So the training has to begin from the, where do we start the training? We don't go into time-space causation straight away. We go into that which is seen, probe and probe and probe, and every probe will reveal something. Every probe will reveal something. A time will come where you will come to the subject who is probing, and then you start probing the subject. And when you start probing the subject, at one point of time, something is revealed. Right through, it is a function of the intellect. Right through, it is a function of the intellect. And for the intellect to function, it needs, the mind has to be calm, the actions has to be dharmic based. To probe, the mind has to be calm. Actions must be dharmic based. Therefore, what Shastra will do, it will bring a peace of mind by talking about the dharmic actions, etc., so that probe is facilitated. So you can't simply say probe, probe, probe. You need to give a conducive environment to probe. What is the conducive environment to probe? Peace of mind. Sadhana chatushtaya sampat. the 4 necessary qualification it brings first. Atmaboda, verse number 1. That's why we say the Shastra Vedanta is a complete manual. It talks about it, it guides you, it takes you up to the point, and then it can also boldly accept, I can only take you up to this point, from now on you jump. It's complete. That's why we have the conviction to say Shastra is a separate pramanam. It's not a phonetic way. People are very phonetic. But when we discuss in this classroom, we are discussing because the objectivity with which it can talk about itself. Last example I conclude. What is objectivity with which it can talk about itself? Mundaka Upanishad. Para, apara. The student comes and asks, what is para and what is apara? Aparamna lower, paramna higher. What is apara? What is apara vidya? Tatra apara, tatra apara. There, these people talk about the apara. What is that apara? Tatra apara. Rigvedo, Yajurvedo, Samavedo, Tarvavedaha, Shiksha, Kalpo, Vyakarano, Nirukto, Chando, Jyotishamiti, etc., etc., etc. Look at the objectivity with which it can talk about itself as lower knowledge. Because it is not saying, except me, all are lower. That's why we say it is so objective. This objectivity gives it the status of a separate pramana. Are you able to follow? It is objectivity that gives it the status of a separate pramana. What is objectivity? It can call itself as apara. Vedavadarataha, he says, Krishna. See, all 650 verses he is trying to establish the Vedas, and that Vedas he calls it as Vedavada. All these Vedas are but he has the authority to say that. He can say that. We cannot say that. Yeah, useless, he says. He alone can say that. How can we say that? Are you able to follow?
Yes.
That's why it becomes a separate pramanam by itself. Because the objectivity with which it can look at itself, it talks about the path, it talks about the goal, it tells you how to get there, and also it can finally tell you up to what point it can help. Are you able to follow? Enna utta vera gadi illan, it doesn't say. Come up to one point I can help you. After that, I also looked that all this put together, we give it a status. What is the status? The Shastram is a pramanam, an independent authority. Swayam Siddha. Swayam Siddha means it is the proof for what it is saying. It is the proof for what it is saying. For color and form, ice is the proof for what it is saying. Similarly, it is the proof. When we go into the later chapters, first chapter anatomy, first we will go. When we go to 2, 3, 4 and all, we'll get to study a lot, where we talk about the 4 stages of intellect. We'll be discussing this pramanam and all much more in detail a little bit. That's why we thought we'll read this book, get a conviction of this as the pramanam, and go back to the main text again. Is it okay, Venkatachalam?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll continue next week.